There are so many things that I wish I had known before I started grad school, and that is why I'm here today to share all that information with you guys. But before I get started, a little bit of background about me. Hi, my name is Lexi, and I am a Doctorate of Occupational Therapy student at the University of St. Augustine in Dallas, Texas. So I graduated from undergrad from High Point University as an exercise science major in 2021 May, and then immediately pretty much started my doctorate program here in Dallas in September of that year. So currently I am in my second year on my fieldwork rotations, which I'm absolutely loving, but it took learning so much to get to this point. So that is why I'm here with you guys today. So without further ado, let's get into the 5 things that I wish I knew before I started grad school. So the first thing that I wish I had really known is that it is absolutely nothing like undergrad. Not a single thing at all. First of all, the coursework is very different. It's a little overwhelming and it takes a while to get adjusted to. I had a lot of things that I did in undergrad I was able to carry over for studying and learning and all of those things, but it's just such a different amount. So I have developed so many different techniques, study methods, and all of that I will share with you in another video to give a more in-depth of like all the things that I did to study and maintain pretty much straight A's throughout my program. But just kind of learning what works best for you right off the bat is going to be super important, as well as figuring out which classes are going to give you the most trouble and kind of putting your focus in those areas. Because there will be some classes that just come a little bit easier to you, whether you did an internship or shadowing in your field and kind of learn some of that information. Or in my case, I had a really good baseline of anatomy, and not that that class was easy by any means, but I did have a little bit going into it that made it more manageable for me than other people in my program. So it's definitely going to be super important right off the bat to figure out which classes are going to be the hardest and take the most of your time and attention, as well as what study techniques you're going to use to manage all that material. And then the other reason that I really think it is not at all like undergrad is socially. So making friends in grad school is 1000% the biggest difference, and I'll put that early on in this video. I mean, there's so many undergrads that are way bigger than mine. High Point University had about 1,000, maybe a little bit more per class, and now in grad school there are literally 30 of us, give or take, in my cohort, which is what they call your like class that you'll be taking everything with and like going through the program with. So that was definitely different. And within this class, unlike undergrad, not everyone is around the same age. Some people are, which I got very lucky with my class, but there are some people that are older and in different stages of life. So that makes it different. And also you're not like in dorms living together and all of that. So it wasn't like I was constantly surrounded by these people I was going to school with. I was lucky that I made a lot of really good friends that lived right near me, but there's a lot of people that drive in like an hour, give or take, to class. So it was hard to socialize and really make friendships outside of school with those people. So there's, again, a lot of things that I did outside of school and going between like cohorts and different programs. Like I said, I'm in occupational therapy school. There's also physical therapy and speech language pathology on my campus. So it's really important to get to know people in other programs and kind of reach out to people in different ways. So again, I can go super in depth on all of these topics, so I will do that in other videos. But just in this one, I'm trying to give you some ideas of things to be aware of so it doesn't shock you when you start your grad school program. So the second thing that I really had to learn going into grad school was that time management and organization was so important. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the most organized human being ever, and I try so hard to get planners and schedule things out and write down what to do, and then somehow I manage to lose those lists I made or forget to check my agenda and all of that. But in grad school, you really need to figure out what it's going to take, because there is not as much leniency and they are not as giving about missing assignments or anything like that. And also it's going to be really important to know when big exams or papers are going to be due, because it's not really something you can just cram for, at least in my program. The night before was not going to be enough studying. So I really needed to know, like, if I had a test coming up in the following week or 2 weeks in advance, so I could start preparing for them and making sure you don't fall behind on things that are coming up in the future, not even immediately. So the biggest thing that I found useful is Notion, and I love Notion because they have a desktop version as well as an app on your phone, and I'm much better with my phone than other products and things because obviously you forget your agenda one day, you don't write things down, whatever, but nobody leaves their house without their phone. So if you do something like that or put it in your Apple Calendar, whatever, it's always going to be with you, and I just think that's the most effective way of organization in that. And then going off of that with some time management, like I was kind of saying before, figuring out those classes that are going to take up more of your time, because you really need to figure out, okay, like I have this test that I know is going to be really hard. I'm going to study for 2 hours versus another class that you might only need like 30 minutes a night if you start ahead. So just figuring out like how much time you have around your course schedule and how much time it's going to take to do each of the things that you have to do. And again, there's so much more to say about that, but just be aware and start thinking about like what you will need as resources throughout your grad school program to maintain a little bit more organization than you might be used to. Okay, so the third thing that was really hard for me to figure out in grad school was that you don't need to just like know the information. Like I used to be a huge flashcard girl. I would just go through them and it would just be like term and definition, things like that, and I could pass tests very easily. But in grad school, it takes such a deeper understanding of material to answer the questions in most cases because they are trying to prepare you for whatever standardized test. In my situation, it is the NBCOT, but I know every single grad program has some big test that you have to pass at the end to actually get your certification. So beyond even thinking about your certification exam at the end, it's really important to have a good understanding of the material because everything comes back around. In your classes, things build off each other. And I know having a good understanding of like my anatomy course in my first term of school really helped me moving forward into other classes because you are really just building off of it. It is a building block. It is setting the precedent of everything else you're going to learn. So if you really understand and retain that information, moving forward, everything is just so much easier. And that makes it way easier to put other classes on the back burner moving forward. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. But yeah, understanding, retaining, and getting a good basis of your degree, whatever that may be, is super, super important in grad school. So the fourth thing that is super important going into grad school is to utilize all of your resources. One of the big things that I did my very first term was go on YouTube for my anatomy class. Like I said, that was a really hard one for me and my friends that I studied with. But we found so many like songs and videos and different things on YouTube that more creative people than me had created to help you learn and understand that material. So obviously in classes you're going to learn it, but any way that you can review it besides just having to read a textbook or flip through your notes is going to be very beneficial. And it might be more in some classes than not because like obviously the human body is pretty much the human body and not much you can change about that across the internet or whatever you're looking at. But just in general, something to be aware of. And also going off of that, check out at your school what they have for resources to help you. Two of the biggest things that I used at my school were the tutors as well as the writing center. So I was actually also a tutor and like to think that I was really helpful for my students and giving them what they really needed to know and focus on in the particular courses that they were in, as well as moving forward. So if your school has that, definitely get in on that soon because some do have a max of how many students they can take into that. And also the writing center, if your school has one, which I believe most do, my undergrad did as well. That's really helpful for any of your big papers and gives you a lot of support along the way, just so you can be a little bit more confident. Because I know I'm always super hesitant to turn in something, even when I know it's done. So just having that can be really helpful. And a good grade on a paper and something you have time for is definitely going to help you in the long run if you do bad on a test or anything like that, because that is one of the biggest things that helped me get through grad school. So the fifth and final thing that I wish I had known going into grad school is that it is not a sprint, it is a marathon. So you need to treat it like one, and that might sound so silly, but like I am so serious. Think about it in like actual terms of training for a marathon. You need to put in hard work, lots of time, take rest breaks, all those things to be successful. Even rest days are really important for learning and retaining information as well as your mental health. So definitely schedule those into your time because it's going to help you in the long run, depending on the length of your program more than others, but super beneficial. And also on top of that, you need to eat well. Make sure you are not skipping meals to study. It is so important. And maybe you have to figure out a way to do that in a quicker way. Meal prep, microwave things. I'm crazy about my microwave pasta. And if I told you what I eat for a day, actually, I am going to make a what I eat in a day as a grad school student video because I think you would laugh at some of the things that I have come up with to make that a faster, easier, but still healthy process. And kind of making those habits and routines has really helped me throughout my program. And also the last thing in that is sleeping. You need to make sure you get enough sleep. I know I have spent so many late nights trying to study and get in the most information that I could, but it kind of hits a point in the day or night that you are just tapped out and you need to take a break, and that is okay. I have found I actually do better on some tests when I do go to bed at a reasonable hour. It might still be like 10 or 11 o'clock instead of 2 a.m. But it is going to help you so much more in the long run to actually go in with a clear mind than barely having slept and running to your test the next day because you were overtired and almost overslept. I promise, trust me, do it. It'll help you out in the long run. Long run, marathon jokes. Okay, but in all seriousness, those are the 5 biggest tips I have going into grad school. Like I said, I will go more in depth on a lot of these topics in other videos moving forward, but I just kind of wanted to set the baseline and give you guys some tips moving forward and getting started. But that is it for this video, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.